to another video as I go to explore a fascinating and rather unique 14th century church and bell tower. There's a strange old folklore story about this village of Pembridge. It's about a fiddler who went to a play here and he played some music and then he went home. Halfway home he realised that he had left his expensive white gloves behind in the village. However, when he retraced his steps, he found that old Pembridge had disappeared, being swallowed up by the marshes that surround the village. All the people had disappeared, and even when the marshes were drained, no trace was ever found again of the village of old Pembridge. It's said that if one drops a coin into a well in the village, that it could be heard to ring on the top of the church spire of the old sunken village. I think that's an absolutely fascinating little folklore story, and I'm going to return to it later, but we're just going to head inside the actual church itself right now. The story, it's about things that have once been here and have vanished without a trace, and of course there's like a memory left that's told in folk stories and tales. One of those is that the village may have been attacked by Viking invaders, and in fact in Mrs. Ella Mary Leather's folklore book it is said that upon this church door here, absolutely marvellous ancient door, there once hung the skin of a defeated Norse invader, and it just hung here for years and years until eventually it faded away. Let's go inside and have a look. One of the most lovely things inside this church is the Pembridge tapestries. These are in front of me right now, and it's a selection of tapestries all done by local people showing the rich history of the village. So we have the moated Norman castle there, and here we have a depiction of them building the detached bell tower, which we're going to head into after having a look around the church. Well worth visiting if you ever come here. It's one of the most unique and spooky places that you'll ever go. And here are the Mortimers on the land actually building the church itself and building all the lovely timber framed cottages. Pembridge is part of what's called the Black and White Village Trail. It's a road trip that you can do around all these rural villages on the Welsh borders in Herefordshire, looking at these fascinating ancient villages. So we have here the old market hall built between 1502 and 1539, and just look at how absolutely fantastic these little tapestries really are. We've even got on this one another mention of that old folklore story. Here is the sunken church of the old Pembridge, the fiddler's gloves left behind, and the ghostly bells ringing out from below the well. Something else they've got that's really quite unique here is this, a model on how people may have dressed in the medieval times, and there's something extra special about this as well. These are the Gower family, and their actual graves are here in the church, and we're going to go and see them in a minute. But these, of course, are dressed how they are on their effigies and showing what they might have actually looked like. Of course, the church would have been the centre of the entire community, and so people dressed like this with humble shoes and handmade clothes would have filed into this church from all the surrounding streets and houses and little hamlets and farms, and they would have sat here and partaken in the silence of prayer and the choral soundings of the religious mystery. I think these are absolutely stunning, actually, and quite rare to find something like this in a small village church. They're actually quite eerie, aren't they, as well, those models, when you think about it. But what's even stranger is that just around the corner from them is this set of 4 medieval effigies, and this is the actual grave of the Gower family. Look at this, there's actually some ancient graffiti on these effigies as well. I can just make out the letters TW there, EM. And what's that? This is 1714. Oh, it's absolutely stunning. I really love things like that. And I know it's defacing the statues in one way, but in the other way, it's a scar in the fabric of time, showing that somebody was there in 1714, probably, you know, a young lad from a farm or a field, and he's etched that in there. And on that topic, there's also something else deeply fascinating here. All of these pillars here, some of them at least, have hidden in them mason's marks. There's just one here, very difficult to see, almost like a little cross with a diamond pattern around it. So that's a mason's mark, the signature of one of the medieval masons who actually crafted this stone, and that is all that's left to say he was here and this was his creation, and here it still stands. There's one here that's even more fascinating, a really obvious and clear mason's mark here in the shape of a 5-pointed star or a pentagram. Just look at that. What a thing of beauty that is. Having been carved here potentially as a mason's mark, or possibly even later on in time as some type of ritual protection sigil, something of great and important spiritual meaning. And whoever carved it, whoever they might have been, has vanished into the folds of time. So it's another very clear mason's mark here. This one could be the type of mark which is designed just to help the builder, so it's saying it goes this way up, for example. It could be something else entirely, but I think being able to look for mason's marks in medieval buildings is one of the treats of coming to such places. It's really, really impressive. We know that we're standing in exactly the place where those unnamed people have once stood. And just behind me as well is the church gift shop, if you like. And this is actually a self-service honesty bookshop. There's a few of them just been left there recently. And there's even some bits of bric-a-brac, look. So if you like any of this, I'm just going to have a look through that actually. You can just leave a donation in the church and take them with you. That is beautiful, and it's so trusting and so traditional. And you know, I'm really happy when I see things like that in these places. Look at the designs on this pulpit. I don't think I've actually ever seen anything quite like this. These kind of very strange winged beasts, and they're kind of looking upwards towards, of course, where the vicar would actually preach from. They're actually quite frightening looking for something in a church. This one here is literally quite demonic looking. It's got all these claws and these great big wings and a kind of horned face. And there's more of them around here. Have you ever seen anything like that in a church before? There's got to be some hidden meaning to this. They're literally all over this. And we've got a leaf pattern there, potentially a Garden of Eden passage, and it's open here, the book, on Psalms 84 to 85. Lord, thou have been gracious to the land and turned the tide of Jacob's fortunes. Thou have forgiven the guilt of thy people and put away all their sins. Thou have taken back all thy anger and turned from thy bitter wrath. Turn back to us, O God our Saviour, and cancel thy displeasure. Okay, so having visited the church, it's now time for the main event, which is of course the incredible and very rare detached bell tower. I've just been thinking about that old folklore story again. Doesn't this kind of look almost like a sunken church? You can easily imagine the people seeing this and imagining it as just the top part of a church, the rest of it sunken down under the ground. And I can't help but wondering if that's one of the origins of that old folktale about old Pembridge disappearing beneath the marshes. And of course it is, as we said, about different things that have happened here over the years. There used to even be an even earlier church on this site that was replaced with this one, and all traces of it have gone. But of course, the most interesting and strangest part of this bell tower is that you can actually go inside it. And spookiest places that I've ever visited in an old church. There's two Victorian funeral biers here, so we can actually come down and have a look at these, and they're being stored here in the church. So these would have actually been used for funerals in the Victorian times, and they're now covered with dust and laying here almost forgotten. So that's the other funeral bier there, and there's even an old bike here, look, next to it, and I think this is actually a postman's bike. What on earth was that? Oh God! Let's get in and have a look. Wow. So it's got to be 1/4 the hour or 1/2. I'm not keeping track of time, but it is obviously electric clock face there, and that nearly gave me a heart attack. 20 past the hour, so if I stay in here for another 10 minutes we will hear that chime again, so we're definitely going to do that. So this is just so haunted feeling and so unique. All of these time-worn timbers around me, things I have known of life and death and of the changing of the fashions of time, all of the things that meant so much to us that are now forgotten, or people just aren't interested for whatever reason. Come to somewhere like this, quiet your mind, sit in the silence of this place and take it all in. Some incredible old photos just showing rural life around the village here, and hopefully they're showing up okay on the camera, because these are truly stunning. They're just little snapshots of a life all but vanished today. There's quite a few of these all around the inside of the bell tower. So I've just got the torch out on my phone for some of them because they're very dark and shaded in here, but just look at these little whispers in time. There's an old silver cross pram there in the background, look, with the baby in and the balloons there. What sort of era is that? Sort of 1960s picture. And then there's one next to them here of an elderly man outside of a crooked old cottage door. Isn't that fantastic? There's even another bit of old graffiti here just in the window that I've just spotted. So that looks like it says JF or something like that anyway. Another scratching in the face of time left there by some unknown passerby. So there we are, that was Pembridge Church, and detached bell tower. And you know, it's absolutely well worth a visit. If you ever find yourself doing the black and white village trail, or you just find yourself with an hour to spend in this part of rural Herefordshire on the Welsh borders, come and pay a visit to that bell tower. You will not be disappointed. There's almost nothing else like that is actually open to come and see anywhere else in the country. So if you have enjoyed this little video, give us a thumbs up and a comment, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications of more videos like this to come. I'll see you again soon on the next one.